Thank you. In January of 2003, I put a noose around my neck and I jumped off the second floor of our home. As I was losing consciousness, the rope broke and I crashed down to the floor. At this time, my wife walked right through the front door. I was taken to a psychiatric hospital, and this would be the first of 6 psychiatric hospitalizations. I don't know if anybody's ever been in one of these facilities, but I can tell you that the shame and the humiliation that you have is indescribable. And you're sitting there not knowing what happened to your life. You see, I had a secret. I had a secret that I had never told anybody. So let me take you back to Sacramento, California. And I was a young boy. And I love sports. So I was playing baseball out front when kids used to do that all day. And a car came down the street. It was a bright orange car. I remember it like it happened yesterday. And a gentleman stopped right in front of my home. And I noticed he was wearing a baseball uniform. And back in the day, Sacramento City College was the premier baseball school in really the state of California, one of the best. So when he stopped and he had this uniform on, I was like, who's this guy, you know? So he started talking to me and he said, you know, I've seen you play Little League and you're really good. And would you be interested in having me help you enhance your skills? And I said, wow, this is cool. I was thinking to myself, wow, I got this mentor that is going to help me do what I wanted to do, which was be a professional baseball player. So it started out, you know, we would work out 4 or 5 hours a day at Sacramento City College. So I was a young boy able to hang out with the older players. And those of you that are athletes know that when you practice with people that are older and stronger and all that kind of stuff, it helps you become a better player. But as time went on, Mark Port, and the reason that I use his name is because it took me 25 years to say his name. Mark bought me hats, he bought me baseball jackets, he took me to San Francisco Giant games, he took me to 49er games. But some of you may know, this is what they call grooming. He was grooming me, and I had no idea it was going on. The first time I had a sexual experience was being sexually assaulted by Mark. The previous speaker talked about fight, flight. Well, I was in freeze mode. I did not know what to do. I didn't even know what sex was at that time in my life. And there was a control that he had over me because I was so confused. This guy's helping me in baseball. He's a mentor. He's older. He's experienced in baseball. And at this time now, he was actually the coach at the college. So as time went on, you know, the sexual stuff was, it was very manipulative. It wasn't something that was violent or graphic, but it was something that psychologically just destroyed my brain. And you can understand that. So as time went on and I continued to grow up, and I eventually played baseball at Sacramento City College, and in 1985, I was drafted by the Chicago Cubs. And then in 1986, I was a first-round pick of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I signed a contract with the Dodgers to play in their minor league system. And within 2 years, I had walked off of the baseball field. And I had no idea why. I just wasn't having fun. I was beating myself up like crazy. I just had no fun playing the game anymore, and I walked away. And I had people coming up to me all the time and saying, "Why did you leave?" and all this. And man, I wish I could have been you. But what a lot of people don't understand is trauma hides itself in your brain, and you block it out, and it comes out at the worst times. And for me, it specifically came out during stress, any type of stress. So anytime I felt anxiety, my body would subconsciously go back to being molested, but I didn't know it. Trauma is a really interesting thing. And I moved on, and if you looked at my life, you would think, God, this guy's got it all, I had a good job, beautiful wife. But what was happening with me is I was constantly running away, and I didn't know why. Have this great job and, great reviews and everything, but my mind was telling me, you're going to get fired from this job if you don't leave. So what I was doing is I was leaving all these different opportunities in my life, trying to protect myself and not really knowing why was I trying to protect myself. So during one of my psychiatric hospitalizations, the doctors really delved into what was going on with me, and ultimately the doctor said, what you have is post-traumatic stress disorder, and this is related to early childhood abuse. Those words were tough to hear, but they did make some common sense to me. And from that point forward, I didn't really change my habits much. I kind of knew what was wrong with me, but I didn't really know how to change it. Those of you that have suffered from anxiety, panic disorder, depression, those things are typically treated with medication. So I was always treating the symptoms, right? I never really got down to what the core issue was and why my life was the way that it was. I'm going to take you back to 2003 again. And my wife, after my hospitalization, my wife says, we're going to go back to California. I was living in Portland at the time. We're going to go back to California so we can be closer to our family and our friends, and you can hopefully get better, And I had periods where I was doing really good, and then something would set me off, and I'd go right back, That's why I was hospitalized so many different times. But when I got home to Sacramento, I was kind of on a quest. I was like, you know what? This bastard ruined my life. What am I going to do? So I started reaching out to people that I know had interaction with Mark. And one particular individual I knew had spent time with Mark, so I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't really know him. He was much younger than I was. So I reached out. I sent an email to his uncle, and I said, hey, I don't know if anything's going on, but just be careful about having Adam hang out with Mark. It's not a good thing. So right after that happened, his dad contacted me, and I met with him and his wife. And they recognized that a lot of the things that happened to me was happening to their son. You know, pedophiles, they have a particular playbook that they use, and it's almost identical with each individual. And a lot of it is just isolating you, of course, gaining your trust first, but then isolating you and, you know, doing what they do. So we got the sheriff's department involved, and they interviewed Adam, and my thought was right. You know, he had been abused as well. So then, with law enforcement involved, a lot of different people were interviewed. And eventually, Mark was convicted and sent to prison, where he served 7 years. I felt good about telling Adam and kind of making this whole thing public, as you know, the Sacramento Bee, which is the newspaper in our area, had done a story on it, and so everybody kind of knew. But I still hadn't even dealt with my own problems, you know. So where are we today? Today we're in litigation against Mark personally, as there ended up being about 5 of us that we were able to identify, but we knew that there were many, many more. This is empowering for me to come up here and tell you this, because it's been such a secret my whole life. And every time I talk about it, bricks fall off of my shoulders and I become lighter. So I want to thank Raul and I want to thank Brandon for having a forum in which we can express ourselves and, you know, talk about our journey, and having such a supportive group. It's just so important in being able to move on in a positive way, you know, for the rest of your life. I still have difficulty forgiving Mark, and I understand that he's a sick individual. So my healing is still a process, and I've done a lot of it. And I've looked at alternative medications like ketamine. I don't know if anybody's ever done that, but it's an interesting experience. But here's the one thing that I learned in my healing, and that is, until you confront the actual trauma that you experienced, you're going to continue doing what you do, right? I think Raul said, you know, why do I do the things that I do? Well, I was doing the same thing. I was getting stressed out. I would become depressed. I would become anxious. I would have panic. I couldn't sleep. And there I went. psychiatric facility. So moving forward, what I want to do is I want to, if I can, I want to encourage individuals to confront the demons as hard as it is. If you can confront your demons and meet them head on and work towards your recovery, it's taken me a long time to learn that, but that's the secret. And if you can do that, your life is going to change. I don't know if you guys know this, but 1 in 6 men or boys will be molested in their lives. It's kind of a staggering number because, as you probably know, a lot of people don't even report it, and they take it to their grave. So I want to be an advocate not only for mental health, but also for men, because this is a very difficult thing specifically for anybody, but specifically for men, to talk about. There's so much shame. And I hope that I can help other people make that shame disappear and go more towards healing. I want to thank you guys for listening to my story. And I wish everybody healing, because everybody has issues, right? Thank you so much, guys.